All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. It's about 5 after, so we've got 14 people signed on, and we had 15 registered, so I say that's pretty good. Welcome to the Wilshire Drive Study Area Neighborhood Traffic Calming Kickoff Meeting. My name is Alan Reed, and I am the Senior Traffic Operations Engineer for the City of Greenville, and I run the city's traffic calming program. Just to let you guys know, this meeting's being recorded, and we will post it on the public input site that you all use to sign up, and that will be available, throughout the process. So if anybody couldn't be here tonight, or couldn't get their computer to work, or whatever, ran into technical difficulties, then that will always be available on the site to view at any time, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. So if you view it at a later point in time and want to get involved or reach out, then you know how to get in touch with us. So let's go ahead and get started. So a couple notes about how to participate on this WebEx platform. This is the two panels that you should have on the right side of your screen. If you do not see them, then you can click these two buttons down here. So they will be important in how you participate. So go ahead and click those if you have not already. What I'm going to do is go through a presentation, and which covers a lot of things. But if you have any questions along the way, feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and please submit it to all panelists. You can see that right there. That way, Celeste, who's our admin, who's working this call with me, she will be able to see your questions, and she'll help me track those questions and make sure I don't miss anybody. If you would rather speak to the group, you can click the raise hand button in the bottom corner of the participants window, and that will create a little hand next to your name on my screen, and I'll know that you have a question. Then I will unmute you so that you can speak to the group. So automatically you come in muted, and the button is grayed out. So when you raise your hand, I can unmute you from my end, and then your screen, the button will turn like this with a little green microphone, and that means that you've been unmuted and we can all hear you, so you can go ahead with your question. So let's jump right in. So this is the study area for Wilshire Drive. This one went through traffic calming not too long ago. Since I've been here for 6 years, I think I remember the last time this went through. So there was one item that was installed, and that was this brown dot right here, which is an island in the middle of Summit Drive. There were some other items on the ballot at that time, but none of those passed. We'll get into what all that means in just a minute. So I'll explain a little bit about the process. Typically, we'll get a request for a speed hump. Generally, somebody calls or emails. We send them an application, or what's called a petition request. When they fill that out, we will send them all the information they need for their petition. To complete the petition, you have to have 50% of the address points represented with signatures, and then once that's done, we schedule this kickoff meeting. That's how we got here. So what are we going to do after this? What happens now? What happens next is we will go out and collect data on all the streets in the study area. Then I will aggregate that data, put it on a nice pretty map, and send it to a study team, which I'll explain more about in a minute. That study team will come up with a plan, and then that plan will once they finalize that, we'll put that out for a vote, and whatever gets approved in the vote will be scheduled for installation. So go into a little more detail on each of those 4 items from the previous slide. So first is data collection. When we go out, we put down counters that will collect average speed, 85th percentile speed, and average daily volume meaning number of cars. And a lot of people ask what the 85th percentile speed is, and that just means it's a data point that we use in our industry that just means that 6 out of every 7-ish cars are going that speed or slower. And so if the 85th percentile speed comes back at 35, then that means 6 out of every 7 cars are going 35 or slower. We will collect data only during the school year and on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We count for 2 days straight, so 48 hours. And that's only about as long as the batteries on the counters will last. And then we'll take the average of those 2 days, and that will be the average daily volume. And again, I will put all that onto a map and send it to the study team. So about a little bit about the study team. They are it's made up of volunteers from the neighborhood. So hopefully some of you. They're responsible for coming up with the plan. So plan being, what devices do you want to put where? And the study team is sort of self-governed. Some study teams like to do it where the representatives of each street decide what to do on their own street. Some operate more as a democracy. They throw things out there and get a majority vote to move it forward. But that's entirely up to you. I don't micromanage study teams, so that's sort of up to you to figure out. So the study team will come up with a plan. They'll communicate with me through the process. I'll provide engineering oversight and review on sort of feasibility of the things you're proposing. I'm mostly looking for spacing of speed humps, spacing between 2 speed humps, spacing from intersections. We look for what speed humps can only go on a certain grade. So if the road's too steep, we can't do that. And those are the things I'll help the study team walk through. I don't attend study team meetings. So typically, the study team will meet once, kind of come up with a rough plan. I'll help them refine it, and then we'll drill down. What we're looking for at the end of it is something that says like a speed hump at 100 Main Street. That's what will appear on the ballot when we move forward. If you would like to participate in the study team, I will post a sign up on the public input site, which is right there on the screen. We'll be using that site throughout the process. So if at any point you want to know where we are, what's going on, you can always go to that site, and we'll do our best to keep it updated. So I'll post that tonight after our meeting, the sign up for that. We like to have good representation on the study team. We don't want everybody on one street. Typically one representative from each street works pretty well. We ask that the people who do sign up maybe don't necessarily aren't there to push their own agenda, so to speak, but to be representative of their neighborhood. We've had a little bit of drama in study teams recently, so everybody be nice, play well together, and it should be fine. So a few more things about the plan. So traffic calming will only be allowed on streets that are eligible, and that's one of the reasons why we collect data. To be eligible, a street must have more than 300 vehicles per day and fewer than 2,500. And what goes in the plan, it's almost always speed humps, and occasionally we'll do landscape islands, and there's some picture examples of those two devices right there. We do use these rubber speed humps now. We don't use asphalt ones anymore. So if you go that route, that's what you would be getting. Here's a table showing all the different available traffic calming devices, speed humps being the most popular, traffic islands or landscape medians. Those are sort of interchangeable, but that's the other one I mentioned on the previous slide. But these are all the options. If you, a lot of people have questions about some of these, but they're pretty good resources on the internet about traffic calming. So if you just Google that and read it, you can usually find examples of each of these. That's probably the easiest thing to do. I don't want to waste everybody's time going through it. But by far the most popular thing are speed humps. Speed cushions, we also get a good number of questions about what's the difference between a speed cushion and a speed hump. Speed hump extends all the way across the road, just like this example here, with no breaks in between, whereas a speed cushion is sort of in, depending on the width of the road, but usually 2 or 3 segments where like a fire truck could straddle it and not be impeded. So that is one thing about speed humps. They do slow down emergency vehicles. What we've been told by the fire department is each speed hump adds 8 seconds of response time. So that's something to consider as you come up with your plan. Each of these columns has significance. So on the left column under neighborhood vote, that means that these items only require that the neighborhood approve it. And as you move to the right, that's an additional level of approval that would be required. So if you just want speed humps, it's just a neighborhood vote and that's it. If you are looking for traffic circles, then that has to be approved by the neighborhood and receive engineering approval, meaning like we'll review it for appropriateness and feasibility and determine if that's a good treatment for that intersection, particularly for traffic circles. And then if you want to go with something like chicanes or textured pavement, then that would require approval from the neighborhood, engineering approval, and then it will go to city council for approval. So I've mentioned the vote several times. So every item that the study team comes up with on the plan will be put on the ballot for a vote. Every item is voted on individually, so every item will have a yes or no box to check, and so they will pass and fail individually also. So if you have 10 devices and 3 reach the 70% threshold, then those would pass and the others would fail. Yeah, so it's set to be approved. A device has to reach 70% approval, and that's based on the number of votes we receive, not on the total number of address points. And then who's eligible to vote? That's anybody who's over the age of 18 and anybody with a valid driver's license, and that's obviously anyone who lives in the study area. We don't, yeah, that's the only people who are eligible is if you live there. We've been doing votes online for a couple years now. So what would happen is we would mail you a postcard with the information on how to participate, and you would go to a link, and it's actually send you to the public input site. We'll post the ballot there. You fill it out, hit submit. If you would rather do a paper ballot, we'll put that on the postcard. It says, if you prefer a paper ballot, please call our office to request one, and we'll get you set up with that. But that's how we've been doing it. We did paper ballots forever, and we just transitioned to that, and it's been working really well. So let's keep it moving. So everything that reaches that 70% threshold will then be scheduled for installation. And installation everybody wants to know after it gets approved, well, when's it going to get installed? That's varies based on what the crew their workload at that time, and then the constraints of our traffic calming budget. So your traffic calming plan is not fiscally constrained. We don't limit you to a certain budget. But if you propose 10 speed humps and we only have a finite amount of money each year, we're going to get you all 10 speed humps, but we might have to phase it over a couple of years so we can accommodate other neighborhoods that are also going through the process right now. And that's just, we'll see how that shakes out at the end. Yeah, we'll worry about that scheduling when we get to it. But and then once they get out there to install, these rubber speed humps take about a week for each location. And then if you go with a traffic calming or a traffic island, a landscape median, those generally take a day or two once they show up to begin. That's usually a day for concrete and a day to plant them. So that's the end of the presentation. I've posted, again, the public input site right here, where you can sign up for the study team after this meeting. I will activate that question, and where you can put in your information to sign up for the study team. And there's my contact information if you need to reach out, if you think of a question that we didn't get to. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over here and look for some questions, see if any have come in. And it looks like we have one from Billy Taylor that says, how do we get a sidewalk on Druid? That's a great question that we get a lot. Sidewalks are installed through the city's InStep program, and that's just a clever acronym. But basically, the city has already ranked all of the city streets, and they get, I think it's $1 million each year from for that project, and they essentially just do as much sidewalk off the top of that list as they can. So I have heard that they are going to re-evaluate the criteria for ranking all the streets, and that's usually it's based on proximity to schools and things like that. But and I'm not quite sure how they're reevaluating it, but that's how that works. So that there's no special petition to get a sidewalk. It's generally just where do you fall on the InStep list. And I can get you, if you want to reach out, I can get you in touch with the guy who runs that program. He's not in our department, but happy to connect you. Looks like Tara Pickens has her hand raised. Ms. Pickens, you can go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm on the phone because my computer won't work.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So 2 questions. What devices measure the speed?
Okay, those are we use magnetic counters. They're pretty discrete. They're squares or rectangles, sort of the size of your head, and those lay flat on the ground, and we put a sticky pad over it, gray sticky pad. So they sort of blend in with the pavement. If you don't know what you're looking for, you wouldn't really notice it.
Oh darn! I was hoping I could speed up and down. I was hoping I could speed up and down my street when I saw them.
Well, I just described them to you, so maybe you'll see them.
I'm on Northwood.
Yeah, we don't use the tube counters, which you've probably seen, the rubber tube that stretch across the road.
Okay. The second question is this on the spacing for speed humps, adding to 8 seconds to the response time for emergency vehicles. Is that the same for islands, or do you know?
Islands do not restrict emergency vehicles. When islands are proposed, generally I'll sketch it up and send it to the fire marshal and have him look at it and make sure it doesn't impede their response route or anything like that. But it leaves a 10 or 11 foot lane on either side of the island, so they just zoom right through.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And if when you finish your question, yeah, just click the raise hand button again, and then it will disappear off of my list, just to make sure you guys you don't still have a question. So, okay, we have a couple more questions come in. Some Adam Jacobs asked, what was on the ballot last time this area was studied? You know what? I meant to look at that, and I did not. Just didn't get to it today. So I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. No, I don't think it's in our, I think it's in a paper file, but I can happy to provide that information to the study team. I don't recall what it was, but that's a good question, and that'd probably be good information for the study team to have, so I can provide that for them when we get to that point. So Glenn Scott asks, are always stop signs an option? So I have a special slide at the end of our presentation that gives a few bullet points as to why we do not consider stop signs to be traffic calming. So stop signs are a device that's meant to assign right-of-way in an intersection when it's necessary. So typically an always stop is installed because there's a lack of sight distance, or there is just an insufficient number of gaps for side street traffic. That would be a reason. And also it's sometimes used as just a precursor to a full red, yellow, green traffic signal. So if you picture the intersection, that you're thinking of, and would you expect to see a traffic signal there? If your answer is no, then we're probably not going to be warranted for an always stop either. And the reason there are federal warrants for always stops that are supposed to be met before you install them. And the reason for that is because the more stop signs you put up that are unwarranted, the more drivers tend to disrespect stop signs, and not just in your neighborhood, but in every neighborhood. Every time they encounter a stop sign where they don't feel like they need to stop, they just lose respect for that device. And we think that increases danger to all road users citywide. So we're very adamant about making sure that our stop signs are warranted when we do install them. Let's see. Edwin asking Gail, if a study was done not long ago, why are we doing this again so soon? And why are stop signs not considered traffic calming devices when you have to stop? So I think we covered stop signs, but the study was initiated again by a resident. There is a 3-year waiting period at the end of once a ballot closes, when a vote ends, there's a 3-year waiting period, and then you can begin the process all over again. So we the city don't dictate who does and does not go through traffic calming. It's entirely neighborhood driven. As we explained through the process, the request has to come in from a resident. So many signatures have to be on the petition. Residents have to approve it in a vote and participate in coming up with a plan. So, those are just the rules defined in the traffic calming resolutions passed by City Council, and so that's how we got here. See, does proximity to schools give any priority on items passing for the safety of children walking? Not for traffic calming. It's pretty cut and dry, 70%. So there's no special, lower threshold because it's near a school. Just that 70%. I mean, that's certainly something to consider as you come up with your plan, and certainly a good persuasive argument as you pitch your plan to the neighborhood. That's another thing I did not mention. Oops. Back to this page. Another thing I did not mention is that the study team, one of the study team's other responsibilities is to promote their plan to the neighborhood. So a lot of people, if they feel like they've been included in the decision-making process, are going to be a lot more supportive of your plan. And if they feel like, well, this is the first I've heard of it, and this ballot shows up in my mailbox, what is this? Whose idea was this? And they're more likely to vote against your plan. So it is important for the study team to communicate with their neighbors, and that's where having a representative on each street comes in handy. Everybody covers their own street, kind of talking to their neighbors. I don't know if you guys have a neighborhood association that you can communicate through, or a Facebook page or something like that, but those things come in handy in these situations. Also, it's really, really important, if you're proposing a speed hump in front of somebody's house, make sure that that person is okay with having a speed hump in front of their house. What I really hate when it happens is when they open the ballot and find that somebody's trying to put a speed hump in front of their house and they didn't want it. So that's another important task for the study team, and that will help us avoid a lot of drama down the road. All right, let's keep going. Answer about stop signs is gobbledygook nonsense from a government employee. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Massengale. I appreciate that. Many of the side streets in the study don't even have speed limit signs. Have you found speed limit signs to be effective? And if so, could they be a part of the plan? We can do speed limit signs, separate of this plan. That's not something that needs to be voted on. Speed limit signs generally are not effective. If they were, we'd be a lot, my job would be a lot easier, and I'd just put up speed limit signs and everybody would behave. What we try to do in larger residential areas is post speed limit signs at sort of the entrance off of a more major road, and put a sign underneath. Like I said, it'll say speed limit 25, all streets this neighborhood, or all streets this area. And that just saves signs that we have to maintain and that will deteriorate. And signs have to go in front of somebody's house, and they usually don't like it. So that keeps sign clutter down. But if you feel like there's a street that needs speed limit signs, we can certainly talk about it, but it's not something that needs to go through traffic calming. I can't find street rankings through Greenville's site. Any suggestions? Oh, I believe that's about sidewalks. I don't think that that's like a publicly posted ranking, but again, that is, I can put you in touch. I'll just put it out there. The InStep program is run by Eddie Littleton. It's one of the civil engineers, and all of our email addresses follow the same pattern. So like mine is A Reed because my first name is Alan. Eddie's is E Littleton, Littleton at greenvillesc.gov. And you're welcome to reach out to him if you want to find out where your street might fall on the InStep list. He can help you with that. Let's see, do you have access to the number of walkers attending Summit Elementary? Is this part of what's being considered? I do not. I can probably get an idea from the school district. And if that's something you're interested in, as a study team, then we can talk about that. That's not something we generally consider as a part of of the plan. Like I said, the plan's mostly neighborhood driven, so it's up to the residents, to come up with their plan. So, but I'm happy to track down that information if that's something that the study team is interested in. Let's see, how close are speed humps placed to driveways? We generally try not to go below 10 feet. We can squeak it down to 5 if we have to, but 10 is much preferred. And I'll help the study team kind of nail down what location provides the best spacing on that. So we can certainly get into those details. Okay, Mr. Massengill wants everybody to know that he is against this plan and will actively campaign to vote no on government overreach. Just want to throw it out there that I am not pushing this forward. This is purely neighborhood driven, and I am just facilitating the neighborhood's desire. Let's see. Oh, Ms. Pickens, I see you've got your hand raised again. Go ahead.
Yes. How many normally on the study team, and do you know how many times they meet?
Good question. We aim for 5 or 6 because it's hard to get people together, so that's a good number, and they meet as many times as they feel is necessary. So usually it's 2 meetings where you're all together, and then usually the rest of it can be coordinated by email. It's usually 1 to kind of identify what you want where. We want 2 speed humps here and 1 over here, and then they'll send that plan to me. I'll refine it, send it back for comment. That may require 1 more in-person meeting, and then should be pretty good at that point. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Let's scroll back through and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Here we go. If someone's street does not qualify, i.e. below 300 cars per day, then that street doesn't need to have representation on the study team, correct? I don't exclude people who want to participate. Like I said, some groups choose to do it where they have if they have good representation, the 1 person from their street represents their street. That's not how you have to do it. That's just a suggestion, or that's what another group has done. I think I would prefer sort of everybody talking about it, coming to a consensus. But if somebody lives on a street that does not qualify, I would not exclude them because of that. Oh, it looks like I did miss one. Could we consider reducing the speed limit in 30 miles per hour down to 25? On most low volume residential roads, they should be 25. There are some that are out there that are 30s, and generally when those requests come in, that they're just like a legacy 30. Somebody put up a sign a while back, and it's my standpoint that like a residential street with no double yellow line, there's no reason it should be 30. So if that's the situation, I'm happy to reduce those down to 25. I think maybe the speed limit on Summit is 30, might be what you're referring to. That would require some more engineering review just because it's a little bit higher volume road. That's why it has a double yellow line. But we can talk about that. Let's see. What about signs like no right turn on the street during school hours? I mean, that's not a traffic calming thing. And we don't restrict public roads, just to keep people, just to reduce traffic. We don't restrict turns. In general, public roads are meant for any of the motoring public. Obviously, we want everyone to use those streets safely. So, that's part of traffic calming, is to reinforce that. But we wouldn't, if there is a need to do it just for flow of school traffic, that's something we can talk to the school district about. But it's not something we would do just as a traffic calming measure. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss any questions, and if I did somehow, then please email me or call me. We can certainly talk about it. I don't see any. So please, later this evening or tomorrow or next week, go on the website and sign up to participate on the study team. I will give that, once the data is collected, I will pull the information for everybody who signed up for the study team, put it all in a spreadsheet and email it to all the study team members. So you will have everybody's contact information, and that way you guys can coordinate when you want to get together. And that will probably be the next time you hear from me. And I don't think we have any other neighborhoods ahead of yours as far as data collection goes. So I will submit to our technician who does the data collection a list of locations for your neighborhood, and he should be able to get started in the next week or two, depending on what he's already got on his list. But it shouldn't be too long. So that's good news for you. And once I send the data to the study team, they're sort of off and running. The schedule is dependent on them at that point. But yeah, everybody usually wants to know how long this takes. And that's a tough question to answer, because it just depends on a lot of different things. But usually in less than 6 months, if there's not a backlog for data, then we can get it through to a vote without too much trouble. So, well, I don't see any other questions. I don't see anybody with their hand raised. So I'm going to call it good. And I'll stick around for a few minutes in case you're furiously typing or you think of something. But with that, I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you all for coming, and everybody have a great rest of your evening.